You brought up Wyatt Teller, and I think it's a fun little conversation to have because there's been so many people that have like been banging the social media drum, like, oh, let's talk about the one miss that Brandon Beane had. I've talked to people in Cleveland, and Callahan, offensive line coach there, Callahan, has had such an impact on Wyatt Teller. This story that he's written in Cleveland, there's no possible way that you could say that story would have been written similarly in Buffalo, especially with not nearly the same amount of opportunities to play.
No, you know what else I hate about that conversation too is people saying, well, if you now we're going to have like post-traumatic stress syndrome because now we can't do the same thing if you don't like Cody Ford, and they can't move on from Cody Ford because you gave up on Wyatt Teller too soon. And that might make excuses for Cody Ford to be around, who I have a lot of questions about myself.
You know, well, first of all, Wyatt Teller was going to be cut. Like, Wyatt Teller was not going to make the 53-man roster. So any pick they got from, like, it is what it is. Sometimes people bloom late. Like, it happens. It happens all the time. I mean, shoot. Jordan Poyer, like, was not he was not who he is right now when he was playing in Cleveland. He was not who he is right now when the Eagles traded him as a rookie. Like, it works both ways. Sometimes you're on the wrong end of the stick. Sometimes you hit it. So I don't love that regret. But they very much used that pick to go get Stephon Diggs. So like I don't know what the problem is here. Like take your dub and move on. Be happy for Wyatt Teller. Hopefully, he stays healthy. He earns the money that he deserves. And I'm not out on Cody Ford though. I understand that. Like the guy has practiced at damn near every position on the offensive line outside of center. Literally every position on the offensive line outside of center. And he had the weirdest offseason in the world this past offseason as he's being asked to transition from right tackle to right guard to left guard. Like, let's let this kid play at one position for a full offseason and season before we say he's bad or not. Like, people are so unnecessarily savage on this Bird app.
Yes,
like,
that's true. That is true. I don't mean I'm not going to be savage on Cody Ford. I guess the problem, the unfortunate nature of being in a Super Bowl window is sometimes you lose the ability and the flexibility to let a guy develop at an important position that you need to get better at. Do you know what I mean? Like, Cody Ford could potentially be a product of they're in a Super Bowl window, and buddy, we just don't have time to find out if you're the answer, if we can upgrade quickly on a 1-year deal or something. And that might stunt his development or push him down the line or whatever. But they also like Ike Butker a lot at left guard. And I think Cody Ford has to play left guard. I don't think he's a right guard. I don't think he's a right tackle. I think he's got to be at the left guard position, and he's going to have competition. I guess it's just a tough spot to be in, ultimately, is my point with him.
Let me add this in here because this is a really good conversation book. Because I think the Cody Ford storyline going into next training camp is going to be a massive one. And like you bring up like where there might have been misses, and I don't necessarily think this was a miss. But I think that this also shines a light on how important it is to have a plan for players. If you want to take the blueprint for having a plan for a guy, you take Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, and the Bills drafting Josh Allen. They had a plan, they put the infrastructure around him, and they executed it perfectly. But you take a guy like Cody Ford, who you trade up for, but you go into it from the very start without a real clear plan for him. We like him at right tackle. We think he could be a right tackle, but we also like him at guard, and we know that there's some versatility. Sometimes you have to do that due diligence and know whether or not that's going to play into it. I would venture to guess, without him ever saying this, there's a lot of ego in this sport. If you arrive in the NFL, you usually come with a lot of confidence, and I have a feeling that this sometimes can kind of play a factor with a guy's head. Like, okay, maybe I'm not good at right tackle. How am I feeling every day going to practice at right guard, left guard, switching around back and forth? That, to me, I feel like he was really set up to fail in a lot of ways. But at the same time, if you're the Bills, I get why you did what you did with him and you thought he could do it. But I think now we're in a place where it's almost like, what do you do with him?
You have to find one spot and stick with him there. It's kind of like what happened in Carolina to Darrell Williams 2 years ago before the Bills signed him to a 1 year, what was it, $3.25 million deal. They moved him to 4 different spots. Yeah, 4 different spots on the offensive line, and they said, "Well, this guy doesn't have it anymore." Well, it's not that he didn't have it; it's that you moved him to 4 different spots and he wasn't comfortable. Going all the way back to Teller. In the NFL, things come down to opportunity, things come down to health, things come down to scheme, system. You can look at 10 different players on this Bills team. John Brown, before he came to Buffalo, didn't get the right opportunities. They said, this is a speed guy. He gets to Buffalo. Hey, this guy can actually run a full route tree. He can actually do this. You look at a guy like Cody Ford, you're moving him around. He's not settled. He's not getting maybe that opportunity that he needs in one set spot. We've talked about moving on from guys too quickly. They're in a tough spot right now, not just with Cody Ford, but with Dawson Knox, in my opinion. You drafted Dawson Knox for his skill set. He needs that time to mature. He needs that time to develop here in the NFL. And right now, this fan base is clamoring. Let's not replace him, but let's bring in someone that we can start over him. He doesn't have it. He struggles. He came on in the second half of this season, whether or not fans want to admit it or not. Is he where they thought he would be? Probably not. But guys need certain opportunities. I'm okay with the Bills bringing in competition for Cody Ford, bring in competition for Dawson Knox, but don't stunt their development just because you're also trying to squeeze in the Super Bowl, in this little window, because those guys can end up being contributors for that Super Bowl.
I completely agree. I do think, and tight end it's a hard position to learn. It's one of the hardest transitions to go from college to the NFL, and he was already underused at Ole Miss. He already wasn't properly taught the position at Ole Miss. So for him to have to transition and learn it and have to play kind of a critical role, they want that tight end to be a critical role. You look at Brandon Beane's basically watching Travis Kelce through hard-eyed glasses. Like, they want that badly. And I think Dawson Knox has the skill set to be something like that, especially after the catch. It's just a matter of, can he stay healthy and can he catch it? And his drop weight went down pretty significantly this season, down from like 20% as a rookie, which was, obviously problematic for a guy who's half your job is to catch the ball. But it's a great point. Like, that Super Bowl window, that little window I put up earlier, it shrinks very quickly. Yeah. Like, you can't say just because you made it this year that it's a given that you're going to make it next year. A lot of people are counting the Bills as, okay, well, they're going to be good for years to come. This is the next great long-term rivalry. Show me first. Like, you got to see it first. I don't think they think that. They want that. They believe that, but they're not counting that as a granted. They're not counting that as a given commodity there at One Bills Drive. So yeah, it's hard to make decisions on when to develop guys and when to just find the best player available, whether it's, even if that means giving up on some of your draft picks.
Nate, I thought you wanted to say something. I was gonna move aside for the stash to kind of get his little.
Well, yeah. I just, sometimes the stash is a little pushy, so I just want to make sure, No, but the interesting part about Cody Ford and Dawson Knox these are two players with really, the year 3 is so important for players, and we saw that the Bills relied on 2 guys in their year 3, Tremaine Edmunds and Josh Allen. One ascended to the level that I think a lot of people thought Tremaine Edmunds was going to ascend to. Edmunds is going to be one of the best young linebackers, if not the best young linebacker in football. I don't think people necessarily thought Josh Allen was going to take that year 3 step. So there is a bunch of guys that are in that year 2, year 3 window that if they take that developmental step, we're not talking about issues on the offensive line because you have your whole left side shored up if Cody Ford ends up taking that year 3 step. You have, situations at tight end where, you don't have to go out and sign Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith to a $10 million or a crazy contract because, you have that development in year 3 step. So, but the problem is you sort of have to bank on it and somehow still hedge your bet, right? Like you can't go into next season not addressing the tight end position. They're going to address it somehow. It's just, what type of asset are they going to spend? Is it a second, third round pick? Or is it, do you want to add a developmental type player at a position that as a lagging period in developing? So Brandon Beane's got, I don't want to say that I don't envy his position because I'd love to be an NFL GM, but my man has a bunch of open spots on a bingo board, and where he starts putting one is going to have a domino effect on where he goes with the others.